I was approached by an agent, um, 2 or 3 months before the draft. So this was like October of 2020. And the draft is in January every year. Um, Although I want to say this year was December for some reason, but my year was in January. So I was approached a few months before the draft, and I was told that it was a potential that I would be offered this as an undergraduate. I hadn't even been planning it because, like, in my mind, I knew guys that had been, had this opportunity, and they were like, in my mind, they're like all the way up here. They're like the best undergraduates, in the
Yeah.
whole country. Some of the best players that I've seen play college soccer. Um, but I remember being, told that I could have that opportunity and then got in touch with that agent. And I basically told him, I was like, I don't necessarily feel like I need this. Like I can finish my degree in a year, be a senior, graduate in December and get drafted the next year. And so I told him not necessarily to push it. I didn't need him to go out and say, hey, shop me around essentially. But ended up getting offered the opportunity nonetheless. I got offered it a week before the draft. So I was told by January 1st of 2021, I would know if or if not I would be offered, this spot. And so January 1st came and went. I wasn't offered it, but that was fine by me. And in fact, I almost preferred to stay, graduate, and then go the next year. And the draft was on the 19th. I was approached on, I can't remember exactly what day. It might have been on the 21st of January. I was approached on the 13th of January. And I was doing this like I just switched my major from American Studies to statistics, and I had to do like 9 stat classes in like 1 year. And so I was doing
Yeah.
this like really intense, like 3 week long, like 10 hours a day class. It was like 7 p.m. at night, and I get a call from the coach at UVA, and he was like, "You're about to get a call from someone at the league. They're going to offer you the contract." And I was like, "Oh, this is happening."
Way
And so that
better
was a
than
week.
stats.
But honestly, like, it took me. So they call. This was a week before the draft. This is the 13th. I was told that 2 weeks before that I would know, and so I didn't hear anything. And I was like, "That's fine. I'll just do all my stat classes. I'll get all that sorted away." And 2 weeks later, a week before the draft, they're like, "Hey, we're going to offer this to you." And so I didn't. At the time, obviously, it was really cool to see that, like in writing, in offer, I suppose, to play professional soccer, which was always a goal. But in my mind, I'm thinking, I didn't know if I really wanted to go now or later. And it was actually my mom that convinced me to drop out and go pursue this, which is kind of funny because she always said that she wanted me to finish, classes before ever doing pro soccer.
Yeah. Was there a reason she was wanting you to go? I'm curious, like, what the argument was.
No, I mean it was funny because I was always the one that would say, "Hey, like if I get this opportunity, I'm out of there," And when it finally came, I was like, you know what, maybe I should just finish my degree, go to this. And she was one that was like, "No, go do it." I mean, realistically, worst case scenario, let's say it doesn't work out, right? 2 years down the line, can always come back, finish, right? But think about a year from now, you could get injured, anything could happen, really. So it made a lot of sense to me. It was
Yeah.
really the logical, way to look at it.
Yeah. And then FC Cincinnati drafted you, or did you start somewhere else?
I started in Utah at Real Salt Lake, so I got drafted out to Utah, and that was a completely different environment. That was tough. So when I got there, it was still during COVID. We had like a week, away from everybody, and then we had physicals a week after I landed there, and they found this like heart condition that I had that I had no idea about, and so I had to have heart surgery before I ever um, touched a ball professionally, played, practiced, whatever. I literally couldn't do anything for like, 2 months until the surgery. And in the surgery, they didn't even know if it was going to be, if I was going to end up, having the issue solved or not. So I went under not knowing if I was ever going to be able to play again. That was like the most stressful time I've ever been through. It was
Right,
crazy.
right
Completely.
after you made this decision to
Yes.
drop out and go.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. I mean, I seriously, it was like, man, I just left everything. I'm in a whole new area. I don't know anybody, all the guys on the team, they're older, they have families, whatever. It's hard to sort of assimilate yourself when you're the new draft pick and all they see is some guy in sweats showing up, not allowed to do anything. I just felt completely helpless. And so that was a really, tough time. I almost didn't even want to tell my family at all because I didn't want to tell them, that one, I had to have surgery, and two, like the surgery didn't go good. I didn't want to give them, bad news twice. Eventually I did tell them, and thankfully it went well. But that was probably the most difficult like mental period